Hello everyone, welcome back. If you'd like to get notified whenever I post a video, feel free to click that bell icon down below. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah, and I will admit that when I first started reading it, I didn't think this would be one of the books that I would post a dedicated review on just because it's not a thriller or horror, and I thought, I've enjoyed her books in the past, but I have a lot more to say on this than I thought I would. So if the name Kristin Hannah sounds familiar, that's because she wrote the wildly popular The Nightingale, which is a World War II novel. I think production was paused because of COVID, although I could be making that up, but I'm really hoping that they finish making this film and that production starts because I'm so excited for it. I think it's Dakota and Elle Fanning are going to play the sisters, but anyway. So I've read The Nightingale, I've read Alone, my mom's also read all of her books. I think my mom's actually reading The Four Winds right now, but all of her books tend to take place within a different historical setting. So this one takes place in the Great Depression, starting off in Texas and then moving to California. It's hard to talk about this book without giving something away that happens at the beginning, so I'll be a little bit vague, but our main voice in the book is Elsa. She's very plain, loves to read, and she's from a wealthy family that doesn't really respect or have any interest in her. She's in her mid-20s and single, and I won't say what happens, but something happens that leads her for her family to say goodbye, and she goes in and becomes a part of this Italian-American family that are farmers. And so part of the book is in Texas, and then it jumps forward in time, and part of the book, again, is still told from Elsa, and then part of the book is told from teenage daughter Loretta's point of view. And I have to say, I'll start with the pros, cons, and then get into some other stuff, but I will say that when I first started reading Elsa's character, and you read that she's a little bit plain looking, she loves to read, she's down on herself, I was really worried that we were gonna have that sort of YA type protagonist that I read a lot of in high school, sort of like the Bella Swan type, where she just doesn't realize how beautiful she is. But that is not what this book is, and I was shocked, and I'm really shocked to say this, but out of all the Kristin Hannah books and all the different characters and point of views, I have to say Elsa by far for me ended up being the most memorable to me and my favorite, because so often you do read about these types of female characters who just like to live in books and are down on themselves, and sometimes it can start to feel very one note. So I was shocked how much I adored Elsa and really cared for her by the end of the book. I also, and I don't know if this is, you all who took US history can let me know if this is something you all knew about. Obviously I knew about the Great Depression, but I did not know about the Dust Bowl, which is what's occurring during the big, which really impacts this family. But I fell down a rabbit hole looking up images of the Dust Bowl and reading about this really horrific period and all of the deaths that were occurring. I had zero idea that this occurred. I'm sure there must be documentaries about it somewhere out there. Probably after I finish filming this video, I'm gonna go look and probably watch them, but it was fascinating. That is something that I always really enjoy about her books. And I don't know whether to put this in pros or cons, so I'll just put it kind of here in the middle. But the big question when you're reading a Kristin Hannah book is it gonna make you cry? And I'm not often, I do cry sometimes during books, but I will say by the end of this one, I didn't think I was gonna cry, because her books, one thing that I will say, and this is getting a little bit into cons, that almost irritates me a slight bit, is I wonder if, and this is why if I was interviewing her, I would consciously ask this, but is her intent to make people cry at the end of the book? Because it's starting to feel as if that is the intent, and I felt that way going into this, which is why I thought I'm actually gonna get a little irritated, I'm not gonna cry. And then of course I cried. So I won't say what happens, but I was sobbing by the end of, well, sobbing's a stretch. I had a couple of tears, but let me know if you read this, if you were crying as well. But that's kind of what I want to know about Kristin Hannah. Is it just that she likes having a big, sweeping, powerful moment at the end that happens to make people cry, or is she intentionally thinking, I want to instill a really emotional response to make the book memorable? I don't know, I'd be interested. Now just getting into a couple of quick cons. I thought that Elsa and Loretta, and if you've read The Nightingale, you know what I'm talking about, but their characters felt very similar to them. So as much as the two sisters, from The Nightingale, and as much as I adored Elsa, it almost felt as if it was a little bit of the same dynamic of someone who's a little bit more reserved and shy, someone else who's very fiery, and it almost felt as if I was reading different characters in the same time period a little bit. And again, even though I really enjoyed both those characters, I just kept picturing The Nightingale as I was reading it. And I should have mentioned in pros, and then this will get into cons, but I should have mentioned Some of the side characters that I found most interesting have to do with the mistreatment of people in California, these people who have left Texas, gone to California hoping for a better life. And I thought that piece of the book was so interesting, but then something happens at the end of the book and there's no sort of follow-up or conclusion to it. And I get that a lot of this was fictionalized, but at the same time, I would have liked to have known, and again, it's hard to know without getting into detail, just to have that fleshed a little bit out a little bit more, because that was actually the aspect of the book that I was so interested in. After this very pivotal scene at the end of the book and the characters kind of move, it's, you know, never mentioned again, and that was the piece that I was most interested in. So although I enjoyed the book overall, given its length, I thought some aspects were just a little bit too glossed over and too simplistic. If I had to rate Kristen Hanna's books that I've read so far, though I know she's written many others than this, I'd probably say The Nightingale, then The Four Winds, then Alone, because I know I read Alone, but I have no memory of that book. I cannot, if you asked me to say 5 facts, I could say the location and that I think someone died in the snow, and that's all I can remember. But if you've read The Four Winds, let me know what you think of it. It's funny because my mom is such a big fan of Kristen Hanna, one of my best friends. Sam absolutely despises Kristen Hanna's books and hated The Nightingale, and she will talk about it anytime I'm willing to listen. And I think what it comes down to, and this is gonna sound strange because her books are really lengthy and will make you cry and they're heavy, but I think in a sort of odd way, they're what if you're someone who likes to read about history, it's probably what you'd read on the beach. Even though I think they're well written, they're grounded in historical context, they're lengthy, I think in a weird way, they're not getting too in the weeds, which I think bothers some people and what makes other people really enjoy her books. I land somewhere a little bit in the middle, and I gave this 3.5 or 4 stars, I can't remember which. But overall, if you're not a fan of Kristen Hanna's books, you're not gonna enjoy this one, and if you liked The Nightingale, I think you're really gonna enjoy this. This is completely unrelated, but have any of you been watching Fear Street? Please let me know, because I've been contemplating it, but I don't know if I want to dive in. So please let me know your thoughts. I've been hearing some mixed things, but I will go ahead and see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.